What is up guys, Speed here, and today I'm going to be going over a topic for all you Safelane players. Now, this is a good topic for all roles, but I think it mainly applies to the Safelane role, because the heroes are typically known for farming, right? Most Safelane players just want to hit creeps, they just want to go for 1000 GPM basically every single game, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the importance of basically having a split personality, or understanding the potential of switching up your role or playstyle as a carry. And to look into this into detail, we're going to be going over my friend Yamson's Juggernaut games. We played 2 at a recent LAN, and he's a top 50 Safelane player, and in these 2 games in particular, he played Jug in completely different ways both game. And I think the way he played Jug just really allowed us to take advantage of the rest of our heroes and didn't force us into these awkward positions where we constantly had a farming hero that we didn't actually need. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to let you guys know that Yamson, the Juggernaut that you'll be observing in this game, recently made a liking guide on the gameleap.com website. He found 10 tips that are going to be super useful for you guys to incorporate into your own liking gameplay, and I think you guys should definitely consider checking it out. He's a very experienced Safelane player. He plays nearly every hero in the role, but now let's get into his Juggernaut gameplay. So the first game here, I'm just going to analyze the drafts for a bit, right? They have a Medusa on the enemy team, there's a Sven, a Necro, but more importantly, what you see on our team is a Nature's Prophet and an Alchemist. So we have a very greedy draft in terms of cores, right? Basically 3 heroes that optimally you would want to farm. But of course now this can't be an option in Dota. Farming on 3 heroes is typically unreasonable. Now you can get away with this in your pubs. It's definitely not to be mistaken, right? You definitely can farm on 3 heroes in pubs. But when it comes to more competitive play, or higher more gameplay, or maybe just like a good pub, I don't know, maybe you'll just get lucky in a pub, then farming on 3 heroes is somewhat unrealistic, and it will allow a hero such as Medusa to come online, or at least just give Necro enough time so that he can create space for the Medusa in the long run. So what does Jug do this game? If we skip ahead, he considers going Yasha, but ends up going for a Diffusal. Now, why is this so important? Because if he goes for an item like Battle Fury, then there's only going to be so much farm on the map for Alchemists. You have to understand that, as is, our lanes went fairly well, and in order to snowball it, as we watch him feed here, in order to snowball it, we don't need everyone farming, right? In order to snowball a lead, you want to take over parts of the map. That's something I'll be briefly going over in this game, just because I think it kind of works well with this aggressive playstyle. But his item choices, specifically item choices, are what's important to note here, right? Whenever you're playing any role, mid laner, you can either decide, hey, I'm going to go for a Midas, or I'm going to go for a Vlad's. I'm going to go for a Battle Fury, I'm going to go for Diffusal. You have these options in your game, and it is very important to note at the beginning, okay, does my team need me to be a farming core here, or does it not? If you go into games blind and just assume a farming role because that's what you prefer to play, you're never going to reach your full potential, especially in the carry role, right? This applies particularly to heroes such as Phantom Assassin, Troll Warlord, Juggernaut, all these heroes that have the option to go Battle Fury, but can go items such as Sandanyasha, Deso, Diffusal, whatever it is. In one of my recent videos, my underrated heroes, I recommend playing Gyrocopter, and the reason is I think a lot of people don't really know or understand that they can go these smaller items on cores like this, so I recommend Gyro, right, because naturally he is the in-between core, the core that is going to fight over farm. So I think this is super beneficial for people to understand this playstyle as a carry. It really can broaden your eyes just how diverse this role can actually be. Next thing I want to note is, let's take into consideration how Jug actually farms this game, because that is super important, right? We have an Alchemist and a Nature's Prophet. The lanes are constantly going to be shoved. You might be thinking, where can he possibly farm this game? It's actually potentially very perplexing for most carry players where to farm when every single lane is getting pushed in. But we're going to go into depth about where he farms to further take on this role of the pseudo carry. So you notice in this clip here, he is pushing the tier 2 tower. This is the first example. Basically, when you're playing a hero such as Juggernaut, and you're going for this more aggressive build, you shouldn't be farming the deep jungle and worrying about scaling into the late game as much. You should be pushing in lanes so that your Alchemist or your Medusa or whatever your farming hero is, OD, doesn't matter, can have the space in order to take the jungle safely. Now you notice his farming patterns do not rotate back into the jungle. This is very important. They do not immediately go to the triangle. His first option is to look to push out the lane. Why? Because if he goes back to the jungle, our lanes are going to get pushed out, and there's less likelihood that he can make a play. Here, because he stayed aggressive, he can now look to wrap on this fight. Right? It doesn't necessarily go particularly well, but The point is that he was able to show up and maybe even get off a flank play, right? You can really open up the map for your team simply by being in position for these plays. The difference here is that if he was a Battle Fury Jug and looking to go into the late game, then him showing up to a fight like that would probably be potentially detrimental for him, because if he dies, right, he's going to throw off our tempo. He's probably going to be one of the more farmed heroes in the game and really throw the entire game up. But in this situation, it doesn't really matter if he dies. Obviously, that's not the objective, but the point is he wants to be showing up to fights and allowing the Alchemist to get to the point that he needs to actually carry this game. Now here you're going to notice his Undying dies. What is his first instinct? Not to back, but to push in lanes. If you are playing the pseudo carry, please, number one priority, push in lanes. If you're a hero like Jug or Lifestealer, do your best to cut waves, and as a result, the enemy team will have to spend significantly larger amounts of time actually pushing in the waves. And you notice, where's the Alch from this entire game? If I just go back 10 minutes, when we look at the Alchemist, we're just going to go in 16 times speed here. I would pay more attention to the minimap, because it's a little bit hard to watch the screen. Jungle. Shows up to a top fight here. That's for the jungle, so very simple for the Alch. Makes this game very easy. Now once again, try camp. If the Jug farms this, it makes it very awkward for the Alch. And then once again, still in the jungle. And why can he do this? Because no one else is taking this. No one else is taking this, and that's super, super important. And I think in a game where we have a greedy Jug player or your typical 3 or 4k carry, we're not going to be able to amass this 8k gold lead because we're going to be splitting farm. And in order to actually take advantage and create a gold lead, you often need to split it up and have one person take the more aggressive farm. Now, just as a comparison, I'm going to compare where the Jug farmed, basically from the same marker. So, as we paid attention to the Alch farming the jungle, let's look at where the Juggernaut is actually farming after this top fight, right? He pushes out mid, then his priorities are to even look for a kill bottom, probably to take the tower. Continues pushing in the lanes bottom. Only takes jungle camps in this area, does not back far up. Rotates over for a fight, right? Always keeping his head up. But more importantly, after the fight develops, where does he go? Immediately back to push out the bottom wave. Constantly keeping pressure on the enemy side of the map. And this is how you create space for farming cores. It's not by necessarily defending them directly, it's by opening up the map, by pushing in the dangerous lanes. All flame players can do this, supports can do this, anyone can do this. But most importantly, I think this is important to let safe laners know this, because I think they often look at their role the wrong way and constantly look at it as the number one position one, like the position one in terms of farming. And please, do not have this misconception. It does not have to be like this, and this will often lose you in games. Alright, now let's go into the second Juggernaut game. So in this game in particular, the first thing we should note is the difference in drafts, right? Now we have a Quap and a Leshrac as the other two cores, which are not really scaling cores. They have the potential to scale with enough items, but in a game like this where there's a Nyx Assassin and a Brewmaster, the enemy team can't really push, so we knew we wanted to go late game, and as a result, the Juggernaut queues up a Battle Fury. So in this game in particular, he makes a judgment call that this one's going late, that the Quap and the Leshrac, in addition with the supports, will be able to make space for him, and as a result, he consciously, not unconsciously, but consciously picks up a Battle Fury. This is the difference between a lot of safe lane players. This is the difference between an ancient safe lane player and a immortal safe lane player, is that they will consciously make the decision to buy their Battle Fury, right? Maybe even if they think, okay, Battle Fury isn't what I should be buying here in this particular pub, I know that pubs last long, and as a result, I'll buy the Battle Fury anyway. This can even buy your mindset, that's fair. If you genuinely believe that you buying Battle Fury in a pub, even with an Alchemist, is the right decision, at least you thought about it. Now, similar to the last game, I'm just going to go over the movements that he made on the map that are so much different than when he had a Diffusal Blade. Right, there are some similarities that we'll mention as well and that are very important to note, but there's a few differences that are also very important to take out. Before I go into the minute details, let's first check over the minimap and just kind of see the general patterns in which he uses to maximize his farm. So paying attention to the map, right, his first priority is always, as I said, to push in lanes. This is something that Juggernaut naturally can do. But then in this game in particular, he's willing to go back to the jungle and take safe farm. It's not as necessarily immediate instinct to run bottom this game. He knows that we have a Quap, so that Quap can actually push in the hard farm, and then his priority this game, because he has less stat items, is to actually take safe farm, and make sure that he can scale into the late game and not die. So as a result, he's farming the triangle, and this is something that he never did the game where he went to Fieldsloop, right? He never even considered, didn't even walk in that direction. But in this game in particular, he understands that his role is to try to scale into the late game and is willing to take safer farm. But in a game where you have another farming core, this is obviously not an option, as we kind of talked about in the other segment, right? Even if he was to take that farm and it didn't take away from Elk, let's say Elk would never have gone over there, it doesn't matter, because then you'd be allowing the enemy team to push in bottom safely, get up vision, and just take over a whole nother part of the jungle. Here it's important to note that he's still willing to show up to fights, right? Don't completely close off your eyes when you're going for something like a Battle Fury. You still want to know, okay, if I have Omni Slash or I have maybe Troll ulti, I can still fight. Now once again here, you're going to notice after we get the bottom tier 2 tower, his first instinct is not to immediately run back to the jungle, right? They have no spin TP cancel, so as a Juggernaut or a hero like Lifestealer, what you should be doing is still looking into push in the lanes. You'll notice even after this Ember finds him, he's going to spin TP a wave. This is maximizing farm and denying the enemy, as I talked about earlier, to get up vision around the map. They have less creeps, they can't even push a tower if they were to get there, and you notice even though that they have a team that is better at fighting us, this Jug pushing in the waves the whole game, in addition with the Quap and maybe even my help from the Leshrac, they have not been able to take our outer towers. They were definitely stronger at points, right? When Jug has level 1 Omni Slash, they have Bruce Split, they have a Nyx Assassin, a Razor, Ember. Definitely better heroes at fighting early. The Quap has to be very careful. Previous to BKB, so do I. It's very hard for us to fight. But because the Jug constantly put pressure on the bottom side of the map, even when he's this hardcore farmer, it allows us to delay the game. Right? By playing aggressive in some sense, it's actually almost playing greedy in another sense, because you're allowing yourself to drag out the game and guarantee that this Battle Fury will actually have effectiveness. So now it's 9-10 into the game, and you're going to notice that he's farming this camp, and I want to have you guys take a guess at where he goes next. That's right, hopefully you guessed it. I feel like it's some like little kid show. You guessed it. He's going to go back bottom and push in the lane. It's so important. This is a simple pattern, right? But he's wasting no time. I've coached a few carry players where sometimes they just wander around. If your hero can push in lanes reliably, which he's clearly addressed, right? Before this game even started, he knows, and he's just checking their heroes. Quick, they can't cancel spin TP. My priority is to push in lanes, no matter what. It gets me farm, it creates pressure on the map, it does literally everything you'd want as a Battle Fury carry. Picks up bounty runes, goes to farm more camps, and once again, pushes in lanes. And the final play that we see here, and a play that I think is really cool, is that he even considers pushing in the mid wave. So we lose a few heroes there, and as a result, the enemy team gets Roshan. And I think this play is absolutely fascinating, where basically the Juggernaut, instead of looking to pressure the high ground, recognizes that he can maybe catch a wave mid here. Now, there's an Nyx Assassin on him, so he has to be careful, but still, he's able to spin TP the wave reliably. This is very cool because it does two things. It allows them to get farm, which is more important than anything as a scaling carry, but also it prevents them from pressuring mid with their Aegis, right? What towers are they going to look for next? Most likely the tier 2 top and the tier 2 mid, right? So they can either set up for the next Roshan in the future, or they can look to siege high ground, right? They don't really have a hero that's necessarily good at that, but the point stands where basically they're going to look to take over the top side of the map. They probably have their vision, if anywhere. It looks like they don't here, but the point is that if an enemy team was to want to play top, cutting in the mid wave prevents them from pushing the tier 2 mid tower and forces them to waste even more time addressing lanes. Alright, thank you guys for watching this video on the split personalities of carries. Hopefully this kind of opened up your eye if you're a carry player, and please do consider, as a mid laner or an off lane player, you can use these same concepts to guarantee they're playing the correct role for every single game. Because honestly, I think this is a concept that pub players completely ignore, and it's a little bit sad, you know, because it's so important in a competitive setting, especially to understand your role in a team game, because as a result, you're able to create the correct pressure, right? He's able to take the correct farm and buy the correct items. And with this trio, you'll become a significantly better carry player and hopefully rise in MMR. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed or learned anything about Dota at all, please do like and subscribe. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next video.